So let's look at some of human fossils that have been described with confidence that we about evolution. Remember, just because we have got new faces here, let me just repeat: we are not against science, we are not against evolution, we are not against new ideas. Islam is not against these ideas. What we are doing is we are trying to understand how paleontology, how fossils are studied, so that we can ask the correct questions. Yeah? So let's look at one of the, and this is, I can't go through all the skeleton, all the specimens. I'm just picked like 5, 7 just for the sake of this thing. This is Sahelanthropus, is supposed to be an extinct humanoid 7 million years ago. So you will think you know something bigger, you have like a half skeleton, full skeleton, 20%. So how much do we know of them? Few specimens are known. What does few mean? 5 pieces of jaw and some teeth. This is what few means.
5 pieces of jaw and some.
Now I'm asking every one of you, can you reconstruct the human being based on these 5 pieces of jaw and some tooth? Some part of it, yes. Some part of it, but not all. Forget, okay, let's do some anatomically reconstruction, but can you tell me about his behavior, his feeding habit, his talking habit? Impossible. This is all based on 5 pieces of jaw. Let's look at another specimen here. This is another Ororhynchognesis. 20 specimens have been found. And what are these 20 specimens? Posterior part of a mandible, mandible, this one. Two pieces, not even a whole. Whoever is medically this thing, they can translate all these things. Isolated teeth, fragments of femora, partial humerus, proximal phalanx, and a distal thumb phalanx. This is the whole thing. How sure are you that this is from the same individual? I don't know. I'm just asking a question. Perhaps it is true that they are from the same individual.
What about the DNA?
The DNA doesn't exist that long ago. DNA can never be extracted. DNA is gone. Within 1,000 years, it's gone. I mean, now they are coming with new techniques to do DNA. But DNA, can you establish with DNA some accuracy?
I think it's the bone density they use for aging.
Forget about. And this is not the question. This is not the question. How sure are you that with DNA techniques you can establish something for a fact? That's the biometric. That's another topic altogether. Let's leave that one alone.
So does DNA survive in fossils?
No.
Not DNA doesn't. They use the bone.
Okay, this is another specimen of human evolution. Ardi. This is of the species Ardipithecus ramidus. So how many? This is 110 different pieces of fossilized bones were found. So this is 110. How many bones do we have? Any medical doctor here?
6.
I think 365. Joints. Okay, so I don't know.
How many human bodies?
Okay. So let's go next one. This is which one is this one? This one is better closer than any other known primate. I think there was a skeleton. I can't remember. I think I forgot to put it.
Lucy.
So the most famous is the Lucy one. So this is the Lucy one. Yeah, this is the Lucy one. So everybody has about Lucy. I have more about Lucy later on. So let's park Lucy on the side. Here are other ones here. LH4, 1 fossilized mandible. AL129, 1 fossilized knee joint. AL201, fossilized upper palate and teeth. So the question was, how, we are under the impression that when we say specimen, something complete comes out. right? And I'm just only talking about human beings now. If I really go into dinosaurs and you guys will be amazed. You will be amazed as to what is going on. So I'm not even bothering to go through all this whole list here. Abel, there's another hominid. There's one specimen discovered, and what is that one specimen? Oh, big, the whole thing? Only part of a jaw. A few teeth. And this is now our great-great-great-grandfather now.
And the name as well.
Oh, who discovered that?
What's his name? I don't know. I didn't put it there.
When was this?
This sometime time. Yeah.
Recent.
Recently. It's a recent.
Is it recent?
Yeah, recent.
So his worldview is different.
Definitely it is. Yes. So LD351. What is this one? Frozen mandible fragment. 3 molar teeth, both premolars. Not even different parts. Both premolars. Okay. And the left canine, some which have complete crowns. You construct a whole history out of it. Okay.
At that time?
Tuang child. This is a very famous fossil that is supposed to be our great-great-grandfather. Okay. And it was discovered in 24, and there's a big fight in the paleontological circle and the anthropological circle. There's a big debate as to whether this actually is an ape or an ancestor of a human being. Forget about evolution and creation and all that. Even the established scientists, there's no consensus on this thing. Every time new studies come and overturn the other ones. I mean, this is a whole subject by itself. Actually, a book was written on this thing, on this fossil. This is the Denisovan. So the uncle's question comes about. This is a recent species that was discovered in Siberia, and these are supposed to be a new species of human beings, or Homo sapiens, or whatever you want to call them. And so a finger bone fragment of a juvenile female was discovered. See how much information is put into just one fragment of a finger. The thing is, we don't even know what to challenge. Then how can you challenge it? Are you saying this finger is off? Forget about fossilize. This finger, you discover it in New York. This finger, I'm saying personally, this finger. Can you trace it back to Adnan?
Your DNA will do.
Got a
That's
point.
what they say, right?
Yeah,
Everything is DNA.
that's
Yeah.
exactly. So that's the whole concept. Can you trace it back? And can that finger tell you how old I was when I died, or when this finger was detached?
If data exists, they will figure out.
Of course. You see, that's another.
Yeah,
Yes.
good point. If data exists.
Data, that's why
He-
data
he-
warehousing.
So just think about it.
You are making your business case here.
So
That's why-
I leave this part on this topic alone. I don't think I need to elaborate on this anymore.
Very good, yeah.
So this is the list of all the things I've done, and how this was a molar, this was a molar, this was a molar, this was a finger. So from the finger is a woman. From this one is what? Male or female? I don't even know what to say to these things. Honestly, I just look at it and say, what?
But nobody is there to challenge their evidence.
Why? Why? That my question. Very good point. Why is it that no one is challenging these things? Because you don't even know from which framework they're coming from.
So you're telling that everybody is in the same framework?
Of course.
Yeah, the people who are
Of course.
have the same
I am in the same framework. Like, forget about it. You just said, okay, DNA will establish it. If the data is there, you still establish it. But that's after that, then our minds are closed. I'm not picking on you, but I'm just saying everybody, including myself.
Yeah.
I was so mesmerized with paleontology that I wanted to become a paleontologist. I was 12 years old or something when I got my dinosaur book. I wanted to become a paleontologist and discover dinosaur and recreate dinosaurs.
You know they have their own church of paleontology. Tom Cruise is member of that.
No,
church.
that's a different thing altogether. Don't mix the things with this one. No.
That's a modern church.
No, that's different. No.
No, just a question. From Quranic perspective.
Okay, we're coming to that.
Okay.
We will.
Okay, that was the question.
Okay.
All right, that's good.
So these are list of fossil primates. I can't go into details. Remember, this is just highlight. I can't go into details. Okay. From few teeth. I'm just highlighted this thing. From isolated teeth and jaw fragments. On the basis of differences in their molars. Okay, let's talk about Lucy. So this Lucy was reconstructed, and lo and behold, in what? In, I can't remember. Oh, 2015. 2015.
Quite recently.
Who is that?
Okay.
So in 2015, something was discovered about Lucy that nobody knows about. Actually, one of the vertebrae of Lucy was actually of an ape, of a baboon. Baboon bone found in famous Lucy skeleton.
What is Lucy?
Lucy is a famous skeleton which is supposedly to be the ancestor of Homo sapiens.
Okay. Was it a human being or animal? What kind of species was that Lucy?
Pre-human.
Pre-human. Okay.
Our evolution theory.
Yeah.
That was nice.
So one bone may actually belong to a baboon.
So that's how we.
Just think about it. You write the Quran, and one ayah is wrong, or it's come from not from Allah. They show that one come from one Syria. From how many books are written on that? If you can just, despite the fact that it is not true, Ibn Warq wrote on just one word. What is the word for grape in Arabic? I forgot. Grape, angur. Huh? What? Okay. He tried to prove that word is actually not Arabic, is from some Semitic language, and it was since it is there, then this is not the word of God. 350 page book. Everybody has heard about it. Every Fox News, CNN, everybody is talking about it. Newsweek, Times, everybody. How many people heard about one of the bones of Lucy is actually a baboon? How many people?
But that's not a threat. Religion is the threat. That's what in the media, right? That's the.
That brings business.
Exactly.
And if one is there, what is to preclude the others are not there? So that's why he's making this defensive statement. There is no reason to assume intermingling of elements between two different animals. He's defending it.
Probably they did transplant. He needs bone broken.
See? So so we come back to Lucy again. Lucy, the discovery of Lucy has created its own sociological problems between the people who discovered these fossils. Remember Marsh and Cope had disagreement. Johnson and Leakey also had big problem. Okay? So about Lucy and the other thing. Look at this one in 2016, actually last year. This is the whole reconstruction of Lucy from that bones. Which one of them is wrong?
Artist improved.
Computer modeled. No. Computer modeled now.
They just said.
Data warehouse.
Data warehouse.
Okay? And look at what it says. A group of anthropologists finally say it knows how this person died. It fell.
Really?
Yes. Okay, very good. Okay, let's look at what other scientists are talking about. He says, this is utterly wrong. This is false. This is nonsense. I'm not saying that. A creationist is not saying that. This is a professor. Huh? Did you know that? No. You only saw this picture. These kids, they only saw this picture.
Media is fair, man.
So let's look at the homology. Well, I want to write. What time is it, please?
It's 12:25.
Okay, so let's wrap it up quickly. Homology is the thing that's the genetic material between chimpanzees and human beings is the same, and it says 99.99%, or is it 99.9% same, right? And therefore we are evolved from chimpanzees, correct? I'm going to make another statement for you guys,
So
and let me see how.
White and brown eat pizza, so they are equal.
No. This table and me are of the same 100% the same constituent. Does it mean that me and the table, I'm evolved from the table? This table is made of electrons and protons and neutrons, and I am also made of electrons and protons and neutrons. We are 100% identical. So does it mean that I'm evolved from this wood, from this table?
So that was the theory of carbon. Everything is created through the carbon. That's
It makes no sense, right? Just to say something, this and this is 99% same, how does it mean that this comes from this one?
Yeah.
How? You need a mechanism. Unless you don't give a mechanism, you don't give the process, then it's just a correlation. It is not a cause and effect. But this 99.9% is repeated so many times to so many people that you don't even think about it. I'm not saying it is wrong. I didn't say that. It could be that we are evolved from chimpanzees, okay? But this statement does not prove that. You see what I'm saying? Just because this is 99%, an earthworm is 75% genetic material is the same as us. Does it mean that the 25% is not? It makes no sense. That statement is totally, baseless. It has no value on it. But we repeat it.
So it's all propaganda then.
I'm not going to use that word, but I am telling you these things so you can open your mind and ask the right questions. You see, the problem is this: either we go from not knowing to conspiracy. Let's not do that. Let's ask the proper questions. You ask proper questions, people will understand. If you have blind faith versus conspirator, everything is why don't people buy into right-wing theories? Because it's so far-fetched. The point is, you should know what you are talking about. Then you can have the correct questions. Let's look at the last aspect on this thing is everybody thinks species, but fundamentally there's no definition of a species. Right from Darwin's time, nobody can define a species. Just think about it. If you can't define a species, what are you building? How can you talk about evolution of species then? If you don't know what is a species, you don't know anything about alif ba ta, and you want to explain, you become a mufassirin of the Quran.
Yeah, today is okay.
Today is okay, exactly. Today is okay.
See Google help you.
So this there are at least 26 recognized concepts of a species. So the question about a species, actually the answer of what a species is based on your world viewpoint. Remember we went through that. So how you define a species is dependent on your world viewpoint, your philosophical viewpoint. Either you will define it in a realistic term, nominalistic term, or pragmatic terms. I can't go into details of that, but we have discussed these three different approaches to things. So these are some quotations from eminent scientists, biologists about species. Says no term is more difficult to define than species. Just think about it. No term is more difficult to define than la ilaha illallah. Then people will start laughing at you. Okay? First, the species problem is not primarily an empirical one, but is rather fraught with philosophical questions that are required but cannot be settled by empirical evidence. So the very foundation on which you are talking about, don't know about that. So let me give you just a layman example, which is not correct, but try to put you in perspective. There are different species of animals. Are there species of human beings? No. Why not? If everything has a species, all animals have a species, then why human beings don't have a species? Think about it. The theory has to answer that, right? That theory has to answer. If you are talking about speciation, then you have to explain that evolution had a species, but when human beings came about, there were no more species.
What is species?
Exactly, good question. So the last part is, we will talk about this one. I forgot about one thing here, but I hope we get timeline revisions. You always review timelines. Your timelines keep changing. Things change, and then you don't hear about those things, right? So let's go to one famous quote here. Everybody pay attention to this quote. He says what? We have found a strange footprint on the shores of the unknown. We have devised profound theories one after another to account for its origin. At last we have succeeded in reconstructing the creature that made the footprint. And lo, it's our own.
We are the one who created it, actually.
Huh? Who said it? He's not a Muslim. He's not a Hindu. He's not a, this Arthur Eddington, one of the most eminent physicists of our times. This book, Space, Time and Gravitation, is a standard textbooks on gravity. It's standard. Space time. If you want to study relativity and you have not gone through this book, you can never master relativity. What does he say? There was once a brainy baboon who always breathed down a bassoon, for he said, it appears that in billions of years I shall certainly hit on a tune. Huh? What does he say? Where is that? Schrodinger's wave mechanics is not a physical theory, but a dodge, and a very good dodge too. Okay? We used to think that if we knew one, we knew two, because one and one are two. We are finding that we must learn a great deal more about and. He's written a lot of philosophical on science and these things. This is a very lengthy quote. He describes that how paleontologists reconstruct fossils and interpret fossils, and he says, look at this. Let's say we go down and start catching fish, right? And we want to, establish something, right? So he says what? He says, when we catch them, he sees that no sea creature is less than 2 inches long, and all sea creatures have gills. This is what he catches. He catches nothing more than 2 inches long, and he catches everything that I have, gills. So then he assumes that this is correct. You know it very well, I and you, that there are creatures in the sea that don't have gills. Right? But so when they says, an onlooker may object that the first generalization is wrong. There are plenty of sea creatures under 2 inches long, or only your net is not adapted to catch them. I will tell them. I will tell, Brother Muzammil, you see, the only reason why you're catching everything 2 inches is because your net is not that thin. Then his reply is what? Anything uncatchable by my net is ipso facto outside the scope of ecological knowledge. So let me translate that for you. Okay? So basically this means the guy is saying, when Muzammil Bhai comes to me, he says, there are creatures, tiny creatures less than your. I said, look, okay, anything that my net doesn't catch is outside, is junk, is nonsense. Why are you worrying me? This is what it means. Okay? What my net can't catch isn't a fish. End of story. Or to translate the, if you are not simply guessing, you are claiming a knowledge of the physical universe discovered in some other way than by the methods of physical science and admittedly unverified by such men. You are a metaphysician. Bah. So basically, you are saying anything that's outside of that fish, doesn't. I don't care. Go. Remember last time we talked about how there are 4 strategies how you can refute falsification, right? So this is one of them. Anything that doesn't fit the definition of fish is outside my knowledge. It's junk. Why do I care? And people are impressed by this nonsense, actually.
And we are talking in the age of reason, right?
Correct. So this is another one that comes to the same point. The solution goes on famously. Mathematics and scientists, what do? 0 equals to 0. This is what they come up to. And they say, ooh, the people are impressed. You came back full circle and you think you have done a marvelous job.
Yeah.
Right? After 500 years of industrial revolution, it is not good to drive a car. It's better to walk.
Yeah. We drive a car and then walk.
Or actually carry a car now.
You may not. You may not be able to
So
walk.
a poet, an American poet has expressed this thing beautifully. We shall not cease from exploration. And at the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time.
True.
This is now your question. This is the philosophical, this is the epistemological, this is the iman that is the problem. This is what one believes in this frame of mind. Okay? What does a Muslim believe in? He doesn't believe in this exploring and will know we know that we started from Adam alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this dunya for a purpose. We start with that assumption. We don't go out searching for, something to come back and say, oh, what happened? So let's look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has says in the Quran. So but before I do that, I want to tell you the games that people play. Okay? Something called use, mention, distinction. This is something that, let me give you with an example instead of explaining this thing. I can say cheese is derived from, if somebody asks me what is the cheese in English, I say cheese is derived from milk, right? Or I can say cheese is derived from an old English word cheese. So both explaining cheese, right? So you can see the first sentence is about cheese. The second statement is about something about a cheese. Is a signifier to a cheese, right? So this is the distinction. You understand? This is it. So sometimes people are using this one. Cheese is. This doesn't tell you anything about why cheese is, how cheese is, why you have. The planet comes from the universe. Makes no. So fact value distinction. We jump from a fact to a value. So give you example, very simple example. The sun exists. The sun exists. For me, sun is a sun. It has the sun is a creation of God. For some other person is a God itself.
Yeah.
And for somebody else, it's just a bunch of electrons and protons. So these are 3 values to a fact. Don't confuse them together. Right? Same thing about the fact and is out problem. So why and how? Especially in fossil study, we mix the why and a how. Some people are why people. Me, I'm a why person. I need to understand why this before I can do this thing. Some people are how person. They will just do it. Some people are a mixture of that. That's how their trait is. Don't mix those things together. Lastly, from the Islamic perspective, the dunya and akhirah is one. It's not separate. It's one. So we will start with this, answering all the questions, and then go back to the board there. Okay? So before we begin, I have a question for you guys. Don't answer them. Think about them. Why do we have white hair? Old age.
No, here in North America we don't. We have gray hair here.
Gray hair, whatever. Gray hair, whatever. Huh?
Exactly.
about to.
right? So why do we do wudu? The explanation to given to everyone is cleanliness. Cleanliness is not tahara, by the way. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lavui, man.
But for wudu, it's more tahara, right?
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So now, parents, when kids are born, kids needs us. Like they're physically incapable of taking care of themselves. When do parents need the kids? Old age? Okay. So these three questions, park them, we'll go through them. Look at how the dunya and the akhirah are related. So anybody who hasn't gone through this hadith can never answer this question. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the mountains, the Malaika said, why did he create the mountains? Because the earth was shaking. So he planted the mountain on them. So it stopped shaking. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Malaika asked him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Is there anything stronger than the mountain? They said, Allah ta'ala says, yes, iron. He says, anything stronger than an iron? Fire. Fire melts iron. Anything stronger than fire? Water. Water puts out fire. Anything stronger than water? Wind. Hurricane. Carries the water. Right? Then Malaika says, anything stronger than that? Now anybody, this is already there on there, so you guys already know the answer. Anytime I have this question, everybody is thinking about the next physical thing. But what does Allah Ta'ala says? Yes, a person who gives sadaqah with his right hand and his left hand does not know. Look at it. From the physical, we have gone to what? This is not physical anymore. So it's completely related. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken us from a sequence of thoughts through the physical thinking to something which is not physical. I don't want to call it metaphysical because I don't.
Ultimate goal.
Yeah. Same with the hadith which ask who's the wrestler. They say the person who actually beat to their opponent. They say no, the wrestler is the one who actually controls his anger.
So it's physical. So this is a very good example. In Islam, you will see the physical and the thing which people call non-physical. They are one and the same thing. You can't live one without the other. That's the false dichotomy that has been created. False, in our minds. Let's look at the next one is more interesting than this one. This is a discussion between Musa ibn Kazim, a very old 132. So Imam Ahmad says what? Look at that. What would happen when knowledge is lost? Look at this. Remember we started with knowledge is increasing, and Imam Ahmad is saying knowledge is lost. In Islam, actually knowledge is decreasing. From my perspective, the Islamic framework, knowledge is decreasing. Here in the non-Islamic framework, knowledge is increasing. Totally opposite of each other.
Subhanallah. That's so true. Indeed. Wow.
No? But we always talking about, knowledge has increased, knowledge has increased. What knowledge has increased? So Musa ibn Kazim ibn Jafar was 128 age, so the early Tabi'in. So he has a debate, interfaith dialogue nowadays is called, okay, between himself and is the priest, the monk. So this story goes like this: he was passing by in Sham, and he saw many people going towards a mountain. So he says, where are these people going? He was told that there's one rahib who comes out once a year and he answers people's questions. He was of the Bani. He was of the Bani. What's it called? No, the Christians. So we have what is the time now?
It's 1:45.
1:45.
Is Fawwad is gonna continue?
I will try to wrap this one up in 3-4 minutes. Okay. So the first question he asked. So he asked, let me go to him. So he sat down and he asked. The monk was looked at him. He said, "Are you a friend or a stranger?" The Imam answered, "I am not one of you." He said, Are not you one of the people of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He said, "Yes." "Are you of the scholars or of the ignorant?" Look at how he's answering. "I'm not of the ignorant." He didn't say takabbur. Takabbur.
Arrogance.
He says, "I am not." Okay. "Shall I ask you or you shall ask me?" He says, "Do as you wish. I'm confident of my knowledge. I shall ask. Ask whatever you want." He said, the first question. He said, "We and you say there's a tree in Jannah called Tuba. We say that its root is in the abode of Isa alayhi salam, and you say fancy it as a place of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam." Okay. So that Tuba is Isa alayhi salam, you say Muhammad. Okay. And in Jannah there's no locality or no apartment. You see, Jannah doesn't have these dimensions, right? In which there's not a branch of that tree. Tell now what is the similitude of this in this world. So what he's asking, let me just translate the question. Tuba is a tree in Jannah whose branches and roots, go everywhere. It spreads to every place in Jannah. So he's asking, can you find something like this in the dunya? Akhirah and dunya. Yes. He said, oh, I forgot to put the answer here. The answer was sunlight. The sunlight penetrates everywhere in the dunya. Every rook, corner, nick, everywhere it goes, right? So he gave that. So people were happy. I forgot the answer here. Okay, so he says, "We and you agree that fact that in Jannah we consume food and drink beverages, but neither the former nor the latter decrease in quantity. Tell me if you know what it is similitude in this world." So in Jannah, if you eat, it doesn't decrease. He says, "Give me an example of the same thing in the dunya." He says, "The book of Allah, no matter how much you read, it never decreases, only you increase. Your own self is satisfied and you want more and more." The same thing, right? Tell me what is the key of Jannah, gold or silver? He says, "No, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah." Now, finally the monk asks, "I shall now ask you another question that you will be unable to reply." Well, he said, Imam said, "Okay, no, hold on. I've been answering your questions right. What is in it for us now? This is not question for questioning's sake. What's the point? There must be some output out of this, right?" So he said, "Will you accept Islam?"
Safeguard.
He says, "Yes." Okay, they agreed. Okay, so tell me how it happened that two brothers were born simultaneously on the same day from the same mother, and they died on the same day, but one was on the day of his death 200 years while the other was only 100 years old, and perhaps he took a sheep at speed of light. That's how you will think, right? So Imam answered, "The two brothers were Uzair alayhi salam and the sons of Sharia. They were twins from one womb, and after they had lived together for 50 years, Uzair alayhi salam went on an errand, took some figs, grapes, juice and milk, and reached a village in Sham with his donkey." The Imam then narrated to the monk the complete story of Uzair alayhi salam. Then Allah Ta'ala made him die, and then he was resurrected. And the Imam said, Uzair lived 50 years more. Both died on the same day, but one was 200 years old and the other was 100 years old. You are absolutely right. I now be a witness. So, I'm closing this thing. Look at how the dunya and the akhirah are interplayed in this discussion. Do we do that today? Oh, no, that's a personal thing. You believe in the akhirah, that's personal. Don't worry about it. Without the akhirah, there's nothing. There's no discussion. The fundamental thing is the akhirah and dunya are intertwined. If you separate it, then what's the basis of your discussion now?